Playfulness ceases to have a serious purpose when it takes itself too seriously. Hello everyone, welcome to your horoscopes for the new moon in Aries, happening on March the 22nd, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me, at 4:26 a.m. And that's Australian Eastern Time, so switch your clocks out for what works for you. But welcome. If you've not been here before, my name's Uma, and I've decided to change it up. Aries season is like the initiation into a brand new trip around the zodiac. And I want to give you, first of all, an overview of the astrological weather that's happening for all of us. And then I'm going to lead you into your private readings for your rising sign. So if you're cross-watching, then you may have heard this introduction before. So please do switch it out and head down to the description box and you can press the timestamp that's in correlation with your sign. So let's begin. As I said, Aries season is the freshness of a new cycle. I am so excited for this time of year because I really think that it's going to give us a wave of optimism that maybe we've been struggling to find in the recent past. I think that the kind of coagulation of the first bit of astrology at the start of the year is really easing, and we get to come into this new fresh space and be Aries. Aries to me is direction. Aries to me is a sense of autonomy and a sense of courage. I think to be the instigator of something, to start something off, takes courage, and it really takes you being comfortable in your own skin. That's what Aries wants for themselves, and that's what Aries wants for all of us. In the tarot, Aries can be represented in the major secrets by the Emperor. Now, to look at this card and to have a mind of wanting to bust down the oppressive structures that keep a lot of us bound up, to rally against the machines that would have us in bondage. The Emperor can be a bit of a tricky customer to look at. Things like hierarchy and patriarchy and top tier down stuff can kind of come up. But the tarot reminds us that we have every one of the major secrets in us. The archetype of the Emperor resides within us. That absolute autonomy, conviction, confidence to be oneself really can be found if you dig deep enough. Now, if you've got Aries placements, then of course you kind of know that in a natural, maybe even subconscious kind of way. For some of us others, it can be a little bit more hard to come by, but that's what the tarot is for. Now, this lunation is happening at a very critical point of the zodiac. 0 degrees of Aries is the first degree of 360 points around the universe. And this new moon is happening at exactitude at 0 degrees of Aries. So it kind of feels almost like a birthing. It's critical time. I've said it before, Aries really reminds me of the one with the matchbook and the first match ready to strike, to begin. The tarot card that represents 0 degrees of Aries is the Two of Wands. Now, I don't know if you're following my full trip over on my website, but I have been painting the tarot slowly, but surely. I'm actually using this new moon to reactivate that project. In my drawings, I've based the Two of Wands off Sissy Hankshaw. She's a character in a brilliant novel called Even Cowgirls Get the Blues by Tom Robbins. It was written in 1976, I think, or 79. Sissy is a world-famous hitchhiker. She was born with thumbs 4 times the size of the regular. And so when she was younger, her mum was really worried about her, and she was telling her doctors to find a young boy with ugly fingers and hook them up so she wouldn't be alone, she wouldn't be a spinster. But Sissy knew better. Since she was young, she felt that her thumbs were some kind of magical tool. The Two of Wands is two magic rods. Sissy, I reckon her thumbs are those magic rods. There's a portal that opens in the Two of Wands. There's a gateway. Wands are magical tools. And in some drawings of the card, the figure holds the world in the palm of their hand, and they're ready to go. They know where they're going. They know it's going to be an adventure, and they're champing at the bit to get that done. There's a passage in the book that I wanted to read to you. I'm going to try a little southern accent. Humour me, or don't. Sissy's thumbs talk back to her in thumb talk. Tingles, throbs and itches, until at last she knew, accepted what she'd always sensed. They were an invitation, a privilege audaciously and impolitely granted, perfumed with danger and surprise, offering her greater freedom of movement, inviting her to live life at some other level, if she dared. Now, I think that there's a lot in there for all of us. We have power over our destiny, as much as sometimes it feels like we don't. Aries reminds us that. Aries can sometimes get a bit frustrated with us that we don't recognize that in ourselves. Aries' sole purpose is to come forward, and from the plane of mind, they rule. It's almost as if they've been to the greater collective, and they've just been birthed into this incarnation, and all of their enthusiasm for connectivity can sometimes be frustrating for them, because they think to themselves, well, this is what I see. This is how I want to do it. This is what you should do. You can do this. Why aren't you doing it? There's a glut of planets that are in Aries right now. So it's not just this lunation at 0 degrees. There's also Mercury, which in the esoteric philosophy is the ruler of Aries. That's the brain access, the cerebral access to the spiritual. We want to build that rainbow bridge with that connection. There's also Chiron and Jupiter and the asteroid Vesta, and they've all just come into synchronicity over these last weeks. So I wonder if you can think back to the 13th of this month and pinpoint a moment of either reclamation or of deep healing. I had a really beautiful conversation with a dear friend of mine, Max. We were sitting in a park after a weekend away together. And through that conversation, Max gently but firmly reminded me of my life's work. I've done a lot of stuff in this life. I've been everywhere, man, And for the majority of my time spent in creative practice or in creating space, I was doing it from an unconscious soul level. I was doing it to connect the dots, connect the points, bring us all together. And I'd forgotten that for a time. I had maybe been self-deprecating, or I had maybe struck that match and burnt too much away. Max reminded me of the past and the present being on the same plane, coming together, that time that does this, We don't need to throw it all away. We don't need to live in the past. Aries doesn't want to live in the past. But we get to bring the best of us forward. We get to bring the best of our experiences, of our love, of our passion, of our magic into the future with us. And so I'm going to be really forever grateful for Max on the 13th. That conversation changed me, and hopefully it kind of improved my sense of humor as well about the whole thing. There's a glamour that I've been so attracted to, which is probably why I'm attracted to Tom Robbins' work, and to Sissy. Now, we're going to switch tracks and we're going to look at Aquarius. So this moon is happening, as I said, on the 22nd of March. The day after, on the 23rd of March, Pluto makes its ingress into Aquarius. Now, we've been waiting for this. Languages like power to the people. Remember all that cat power imagery that I've been ramming down your throat lately? If Capricorn represents hierarchy, which it does in some way, there's the mountain goat and the sea goat. In the ancient world, dolphins were considered sea goats. And so the essence of Capricorn is based on that principle of mountain goat at the top, sea goat at the bottom. And so Pluto, the planet of destruction and of disintegration, of removal, has been lingering at the final degree of Capricorn. And we can feel it in the world already, can't we? We can feel all of those hairline fractures, these systems of oppression, this fight back from fascist voices, from voices that wish to keep the language as it were, that wish to keep things stuck in the old days. It's all going away. And so Pluto is entering the day after this moon into the Aquarius, the sign of the people. 2 days after Pluto moves into Aquarius, Mars finally leaves Gemini and enters Cancer. And so all of my Gemini babes, particularly my Gemini moons, I might say, brethren, you and me, babe, there's going to be a release. There's going to be a culmination, perhaps, of some of this toing and froing, this kind of fight of the mind. I don't know if you've been waking up lately and have been already mid-conversation with yourself, or somebody else in there is having a chat and letting you know what they think of it. It's exhausting, but we can look forward to that movement. Mars leaving Gemini into the sign of Cancer. And so Cancer, I can almost feel this, the cardinal water, the nurturer of the zodiac. I can feel that kind of heat of Mars just going, hold up, hold up, hold up. Mama's pulling rank. Okay, so that's the collective astrology. Hand in hand, we're going to do this together. We're going to step into this new way of being. We're going to birth this new world together. We're going to take all of the beauty, all of that cream from our past selves and mix it into our future selves. We're going to stand here and beat Aries and say, I am. If Aries says 2 words, it's I am. And there's no arguing with that. Hello, Cancer. This is your chapter of the story. So when you think of Aries, when you think of the Emperor, when you think of I am, this is all in your 10th house. This is your career and your legacy, how you're most publicly perceived by other folks, the part of your chart that is at the top and is most visible for everyone to see. And so there's some really chunky astrology in that house right now, right? All of those planets I said that are sort of lined up in Aries. There's an emphasis here, and there's a nice relationship between Aries, who is ruled by Mars, and Mars, who is about to enter your first house a few days after the new moon. On the 25th of March, Mars will, as I said before, enter into Cancer. And how I look at it, cardinal to cardinal, there's like a sort of feeling. All of this motion in the ocean that has been happening in your 12th house and your unconscious self, maybe your kind of access to psychic ability, those kinds of things, your dreams have been pretty hot-headed over the last 7 months. There's a lesson here, and it's coming into your first house. It's hitting you right in the soul center. And it's also the guiding planet of your 10th house, of your career. So at this new moon, I want you to really think clearly about how you wish to be publicly perceived, what you hope your legacy may be. What are you going to leave behind in this life? Now, there's obviously many different kinds of pathways that can we discuss about that. We don't want it to be so invested in work and production and producing That's the old system. That's the old way of life. That's the way that keeps people in fear. It keeps people bound to their output, their production, as a way of measuring or weighing up their worth. We all know that that's on the way out. As Pluto enters Aquarius, power to the people, we all know that there's going to be some changes. The last bastions of the old systems of power will be crumbling. And we will come to really understand that the individual's worth has little to do with how much their nose is to that grindstone. Having said all of that, your legacy is a separate thing. What do you wish that folks will remember you for? What lessons or offerings do you wish to leave behind in this life, Cancer? Because this is the new moon to make that wish. This 0 degrees of Aries is initiation. It's 2 of Wands. It's Sissy Hankshaw. Magical, magical tools. Opening. It's a portal. The world in your hands. So ask for it. Work with the Aries new moon. Work with the Emperor inside of you. The grand one that has control over their output. I can see really nice things happening here for you, Cancer. And it is going to be a pretty wild month because, as I said, the first lunation in Aries at 0 degrees, the starting point, the birthing point of the new trip around the zodiac, we have a new moon. In a month from now, at the next new moon, it will also be in Aries, but it will be a hybrid solar eclipse because it lingers so close to that north lunar node, that dragon's head. It's out of sign, but it's still a moment to remark upon. And remember, at solar eclipses, there's almost like a deluge. There's a feeling of sort of like a wave of some kind. We've got little control over it. We don't work with those sorts of energies. We allow them to happen, and we reap the rewards of the lessons that we've learned. But isn't that quick? That's only a month. So at this new moon in Aries, I really want you to think big. Think as big as you like. Really delve into it. What's in your glory box? What will be passed down? And this is not material at all. You know this. You know this. Harness your Cancer intuition. Harness your Cancer soul. If I'm talking to Cancer risings, this is your first house. So Cancer soul. I build a lighted house and therein dwell. Nurturance. Protection. Guardianship. All of these things are in your soul purpose, Cancer. Do they relate to your 10th house, to your career, to your public perception? How so? How can you take the confidence, take the drive of Aries and Mars and imbue them into yourself? We've got 2 asteroids to talk about because they're here on the table. I'll show you the cards quickly. I got the Queen of Cups. I got the Sun, the 3 of Pentacles, the 2 of Pentacles, and the Queen of Pentacles. Now I'm going to bring these 2 cards first into our conversation. So here, the Queen of Cups, we could assign the qualities of the asteroid Juno to this card. And Juno right now, as I said before, is in exact conjunction with Venus at 5 degrees of Taurus. And for you, this is your 11th house. This is your sense of humanity and community. And so I see here that there's a bastion of empathetic care and healing. There's an extra emphasis on pleasure and of joy and art and creation in the 11th house for you. This could be somebody in your periphery as well, you know what I mean? I like to see that this is Juno in the sky, holding hands with Venus. What a sight. Beautiful, supportive, kind, caring, water-led. You'll respond to this one, Cancer. These folks speak your language. They speak your language of love. They understand it. They learn from your lesson book. This is community, 11th house. This is your sense of humanity. The Queen of Pentacles, we can ascribe the essence of Ceres. Now, all of these theories, they're not set in stone. This is just something that I'm kind of surmising. But if we were to give tarot cards to the asteroids, I would give Ceres to the Queen of Pentacles. Right now, Ceres is at 0 degrees of Libra. So in direct opposition to your 10th house and your 4th house of home, roots, stability, ancestry. The legend of Ceres has it that she was the god of agriculture, that she gave forth the lessons on how to procure from the bounty of nature's resources, how to plant the seeds, how to yield from the crops. Ceres had a daughter called Persephone, who was kidnapped by Pluto and dragged to the underworld, dragged to the limits, dragged down below the surface of the world. Ceres left her duties, left her station as a god, and went down to the underworld to retrieve her daughter, to save her, to bring her back to life. Now, in Ceres' absence, the crops failed. The seasons grew cold and winter emerged. So you can see here this imagery of Ceres. In astrology, it can represent how we nurture or how we were nurtured. I see this as this opposition doesn't have to be conflict, but it's almost as if these energies are shining a light on each other. This new moon is shining a light on Ceres. Ceres saved Persephone, took her back to Earth, but only after she made a bargain with Pluto, who said, I will have her every year. Down here is where Persephone will be with me once a year. And so Ceres, every single year, had to make that journey down to save her daughter, to bring her back to life. There's something so gorgeous and intense about this story, Cancer. It's almost as if your abilities, your capabilities of resuscitation are being called upon in your 10th house, in your legacy. Perhaps this spotlight is showing us how indeed you will be remembered, what your legacy will come to pass. The other cards I got for you are the Sun and the Three of Pentacles and the Two of Pentacles. And so I see this: if you shine as brightly and boldly as your sun, now that depends on when you were born, what month-ish, but how you identify in this life. What is your personality? What is the parts that you hold up under your chin, the brightest parts of yourself? Because as much as this conversation is about the soul's intention, this is what our life is for, is to discover what that might be and to work with it. We need to use our identity in order to have that happen. An ego is essential. We can't, would be amorphous globules of plankton if we didn't have an ego. And we don't know if they've got an ego or not. I think the jury is probably still out on that, but do you understand what I mean? Like, as a human individual, you need an ego so you can translate what you're absorbing. Your identity is going to aid your soul purpose. You don't need to be bashful about your innate qualities, or the way that you talk, or the way that you share information, or what you're invested in, how you connect with people. It's coming from honesty, Cancer. It's the truth. But there's such a powerful frisson here, an emphasis on the qualities of Ceres, of this Queen of Pentacles. How you can sow that narrative into your experience in life, and how you can shine those lessons, shine that out into your public self. We're coming into a period of time where you will be working very hard. You will be collaborating, and you will be committed to a great purpose, as Pluto brings with it its changing of the guard, its disintegration and power. There's going to be a lot of folks that will need your help. And so at this new moon in Aries at 0 degrees, this birthing point, if ever there was one, I want for you to really sit in the idea of your legacy and how your skills and attributes can be of best benefit for all of us. That's your mission at this new moon, Cancer. And then a month later, we'll just allow what happens to happen, and then we will move forward. I love you. That's your reading. Head to umaruby.com if you're new here. And if you want to read my writings or look at my paintings or book a birth chart reading, you can do that all via my website. If you'd like to tip me in the tip jar, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. I'll be speaking to you in 2 weeks for the new moon in Libra. Sorry, the full moon in Libra. So this is your 4th house. There's going to be a release valve on some of that home, ancestry, safety, security. There may be a celebration that occurs as to what you've learned about that space. There's also a great opportunity for you to set down what is no longer required. I'll speak to you then, Cancer. You take care. Bye. Hello, Scorpio. This is your chapter of the Aries new moon astrology. So I'm going to be pulling you some tarot as well, and we'll get some nice messages here. But I want you to think about your 6th house. This is where Aries is for you. The 6th is our relationship with our physical body. It's our health and our well-being. It also includes the animal kingdom and the plant world, the plant kingdom as well. Everything that is real and physical on this plane. There's a kind of rhythmic, kind of ritualistic feeling to this space as well. So when we manifest at a new moon, we create, we ask for what we would hope to receive in that particular part of our life. This one is, as I said, there's a glut of planets there. There's a lot of info. There's the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, Chiron, Vesta. There's a whole conglomeration in there. And so thinking of the body, thinking of health, thinking of the daily rituals that we go through in our day, like chopping the wood, making dinner, brushing the teeth, all of those sorts of rhythms. There may have been a moment of exaggerated or kind of emphasized healing over the last couple of weeks. On the 12th, I spoke about it in the last horoscope, but on the 13th in Australian time, Jupiter made a conjunction with Chiron in Aries. And so there was an emphasis on an opportunity for us to either have conversations or talk about or recognize where some of our kind of latent, maybe unconscious wounding might lay, and a chance to speak about it. I had a beautiful conversation with a very, very good friend of mine, and that provided me with an enormous amount of healing in regard to some of the more sensitive spots in my experience right now, some of the things that I had maybe set down for a time and weren't ready to look at. There was a feeling of like remembrance, a recognition from the past. And so I wonder if this played out for you, Scorpio. I wonder if you can remember last week of this occurring and what you're looking forward to as far as activating your physical vessel. What do you wish to accomplish? What do you wish to accomplish with your body? How does this emperor sit with you in the physical self? You know, this is a gateway. Remember, this is a portal. This is two magical wands. We have autonomy over this thing. Our body is our own. Our body, our choice, is one of the more contemporary sacred mantras of humanity that I trust will be remembered in generations to come. My body, my choice. So sit with that. Allow that sort of to steep and flow in you. What are some of the things that you hope to achieve? This could be, of course, physical routines and diet, healthy food, all of that kind of stuff. Absolutely. It's also an opportunity for you to re-enter the body. I think that that's probably one of the best experiences after a time of being dissociated, after a time of being sort of checked out and maybe not so present in the physical self, to re-enter. And what better time to re-enter than at this 0 degree point of Aries? It's like, right now, 1, 2, 3, back in the room is what I feel. So come back to earth, Scorpio, come back to the physical, and start jotting down some goals. How are you going to be treating yourself from now on? How are you going to be including your physical self in with the rest of it, in with your philosophical thinking, in with your creative output, your expression, in with your all of the other facets of life? Your physical feet on dirt is like just as beautifully important. It really grounds us. The 6th is the house that really grounds us, keeps us here. Sometimes we fly away on that thought form or that thought form or that thought form, especially when we're talking Aries and we're talking the 2 of Wands, we can sort of jump out of our skin. We gotta remember to jump back into our skin, I think, is the trick. So I'm going to get some tarot. I want to talk about your 7th house, actually, before I go into this, because as I said in the collective reading, there's a real moment of sweetness. So Venus, the planet of pleasure and art and creation, is in your 7th house right now. Very at home in Taurus. Venus rules Taurus. Venus is the harbinger of the secrets of Taurus. Everything that Taurus aspires to can be found with the help of Venus. There's a slow moving sort of rhythmic pace to Venus and to Taurus, and a nice sense of grounding as well. Taurus is an earth sign. So in your 7th house of relationship, it's nice to have that influence of grounding. I really like this quite a lot. In conjunction with Venus is the asteroid Juno. And in tarot, as I said before, that's the Queen of Cups. It's not a hard and fast rule, it's just a theory of mine. But I think when we look at this image of the Queen of Cups, we recognize that there's someone who is able to receive the emotional waves and ebbs and flows that they're receiving from you. They're able to sit and listen and understand how you're feeling and provide you with love and comfort. I love that this is an exact conjunction, 5 degrees Juno, 5 degrees Venus. It's one to remark upon. In astrology, Juno can sometimes point to how or what we need in relationships, and also what we provide as well for other folks that we're communing with. And so at this new moon, there's like, it feels quite loving. It feels quite available. It feels really gentle, which is a nice relief maybe from some of the other stuff that we've been battling with. So as you think about your 6th house, your body, my choice, these are my goals, this is my direction, this is where I'm moving, this is what feeds me and grounds me and keeps me here on this planet. This is real stuff. As all of this is going on in your manifestation, look out, see who's around you, see who's wrapping you up in support and love and taking care of you. So I got some nice cards. I got the 9 of Cups, I got the Hermit, the 8 of Wands, and I got the Devil in reverse. I like that you're good by yourself. I like that you can really feel the breadth of your emotional literacy. Very, very, very versed and intelligent and seasoned as far as the ebbs and flows of our emotional bodies, as far as love and loss and connection and pain, all of those sorts of things. And at this point in your life, I really see you sitting in an environment where you're like, I'm really great alone, and I'm working with everything that I'm being given. Every test, every lesson I've understood because of my Scorpio essence. I know that this is true. I know that I am good at confrontation of intensity. And I see that there's been a moment that you've really needed to be by yourself. And maybe there's been times where you're thinking to yourself, oh, I actually need more of this time. I need to be alone. I want to be alone, as Marlena once said. Or was that Greta Garbo? I think it was Greta Garbo. But with this Juno and Venus in the 7th, I think that you're sort of being encouraged quite fervently, I might say. You're being urged to cast your gaze out a little wider, as you know full well, Scorpio, we all die alone. We can't take anybody with us. When it's our time to go, it's our time to go. You understand the integrity of the intensity of connection and of loss. And I think that maybe sometimes when we have so much loss, when we experience it time and time again, we can sometimes get ourselves into a point where we kind of preempt it we preempt abandonment, or we preempt that final goodbye. And that has us check ourselves, and that has us go inward, and that has us remember that we will be okay alone. Absolutely. But I think that the feverishness of these messages, the feverishness of this lunation, this new moon, it's really asking you to not fall into habitual patterns of thinking, preempting that abandonment, preempting that loss. But they're going to leave me anyway. It's happened before. As I come into my absolute autonomy, as I'm really, really embodying who it is that I believe that I am, I'm honoring this vessel, my body, my choice. It kind of feels like, just with these cards, it's sort of like no one exists in the hermitage forever. We're humans. We need other folks. We need social interaction. We need love and companionship and kindness. And so if you cast your gaze over to that 7th house of yours in Taurus, and it doesn't have to mean that if you're not in a relationship, it's recognizing that you have a 7th house. It's recognizing that that space will have movement and activity. And right now, there's a real burst of sweetness in there. There's a real burst of care and kindness and gentleness. And so this solo mission that it seems like you're on, I just want to make sure that it's not out of necessity. You're not going this life alone because you've fallen out of favor with humankind. I know what it feels like not to trust folks. I know what it feels like to maneuver and to wiggle around and to do what you believe will avoid confrontation or will avoid pain. But you feel so much, Scorpio. You have so much love to give. It's fixed underneath that carapace of ice, right? But that ice shields an ocean. So make sure that you go for a swim in there from time to time. That's your reading. Much love to you, Scorpio. I hope that was a nice one. Apologies, I've caught a little something, so I'm husking into my boots. But I'll be with you in 2 weeks for the full moon in Libra. So until then, use this 0 of Aries as the activation point. My body, my choice. I will be received and loved for the person that I am. Yeah. All right, you take care. Much love. Speak to you in 2 weeks. Bye. Hello, Pisces. This is your chapter of the story. So, Aries, your 2nd house, your value system, your access to money and financial security, how you take care of yourself. Isn't this powerful? 0 degrees, the 1st degree of the zodiac, and we have a new moon here. This is a supercharged moment for you to really call in the next chunk of change, call in the next bit that you need to get by. But also let's open that up a little bit, because I wonder if that's been the mode so far. It's sort of like, so, scraping by, getting through. I know that feeling, and I know that feeling really well. And at times it's sort of, inflation doesn't include the poor people except to make them poorer. Like it's difficult to, when you're sort of rubbing two sticks together and sort of trying to, you're working as hard as you can and trying to turn this thing over, it can be really sort of confronting as things get more expensive and you sort of feel yourself closing in. So I want to calm some of that down, I think, and I really want to focus on the Emperor. I want to focus on that part of you that is really capable and really centered and really ready for this. And also I want to focus on Sissy, that Two of Wands. This is like a gateway. This moment has the world in the palm of your hands. So what are you working on? How are you earning money these days? Is it a routine that needs a bit of tweaking, that needs a bit of a shake-up? Have you been working away at something and continuing, and kind of hoping that the leaks don't keep springing? This is the moon to really set that intention, to really stand tall and proud and say to yourself, I've got 24 hours in this day, and this is the way that I choose to spend them. This is my output. In a culture that's so hell-bent on producing and production and toiling, it can be really difficult to be a fluid Piscean identity, because there's spaces that you'd much rather linger in. There's ponderances and thoughts and bumblebees to be distracted by. I get it. There's far more interesting things than money. But if the second house is also about your value system, it's also about how you live your life, what code of conduct or what life philosophy you have, then this is really interesting too. This is a great moment to stand by that. Artists of the world are always broke. It's capitalism that will suck up a few of them and then turn that into this sort of shape. But we know that kind of shape is disintegrating. It's all moving. It's all beyond us. It's all moving away. Hierarchy and top-down power, it's untenable. Growth at all costs is untenable. The way that we leech off the planet in order to have the lives that we do is untenable. As an artist or as a creator, as a Pisces that is really fluid and really engaged with the intricacies of life, far more than the straight and narrow. This new moon would be a really great time to remind yourself of that, Pisces. It would be a really great time to be so proud that that's how you live your life. That's has been your guiding light up until this point. On the 12th or the 13th, depending on what hemisphere you're in, Jupiter came into that conjunction with Chiron. I wonder how that was for you. For me, I had this most beautiful conversation with my friend Max. We sat in the park and we talked about my past lives, the different modes of expression that I've engaged in over time. It's been many different things. I've done lots of things in my life, expressed myself in many different modes and formats. And through that conversation, I found a real moment of healing with the way that Max saw it from their perspective. They recognized and they told me that the majority of my work has been from a yearning to connect, a yearning to express myself, absolutely, but to also reflect what the other person in reception of the work, they could see themselves in it. To go a little deeper and to sort of find those connector points that link us all together. Max reminded me that that's been my modus operandi. That's been why I make work. It's why I do this work now. And it was so healing. It was quite literally Jupiter and Chiron conjunct, looking down at me, being like, heal, heal. I really appreciated that. And they're both still there in Aries, so we can still work with this sort of energy. They're not conjunct anymore. But this is the moon. You know, like cyclical time, man. And this is the beginning, the starting point of a fresh new cycle. So if there's conversations that you have with yourself in relationship to your worth, if you're down on yourself and say that you're incorrigible and that you always seem to while away the hours, spend endless energy on points of interest that maybe aren't so economically viable, then this is the moon to stop that voice in its tracks and to reroute. To be like, actually, no, this is my value system. This is how I choose to express myself. And this is my entitlement. Maybe is a pretty strong word, but it's like, this is my birthright, is to be able to receive back for what I put out. It's all available to you in your head, Pisces. You of all people, you can work with this stuff. As Pluto comes around the bend into Aquarius, we're going to feel that power. That's the day after this lunation. We're going to feel the shifts in culture. We're going to see what might be in store for us over the next 20 years. You know, this is generational change. And I imagine that the world needs a little bit more sweetness, needs a little bit more love and compassion and tenderness and creativity, all of the things that you're so good at. So I want you to really focus in on this. You know, we could say money manifestation, but it just seems so like, it's more than that, isn't it? It's like a sense of purpose. Of course, money is our guiding light for, you know, sense of purpose at the moment. But like, you know, everyone's got to pay the bills. We've all got to keep food in the fridge. We've all got to keep a roof over our heads. You know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like those things, the base of those needs, if they're not met, then we can't meet the other needs on that hierarchy. It's a funny word, hierarchy, especially with all this spiritual learning that I'm doing, all these books that I'm reading. Lot of hierarchy. I think for someone so anti-establishment, I really need to reconcile my feeling about that word. I got quite a few cards. So I got the Sun and I got Strength. They're both sitting on top of one another. This is really beautiful. Both of these cards speak to Leo. We know what Leo does. Leo is unabashed to express themselves. They grab the mic and they sing it to the crowd. This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is my life. There's a pride there, isn't there? Pride aligns. And the Sun, kind of, it has that relationship with the inner self, you know, that little version of ourselves that we've sort of become, we've shielded them by many layers over many years, trying to protect them as much as we can. They're the one we need to listen to. They're the one that holds the key to our value system. What did you value when you were a kid? What did you think about? How did you spend your day? What were you interested in? That's core values. Creation and beauty and love and kindness and tenderness, communing with the animal kingdom, hugging, kissing, all of those beautiful things. That's a beautiful value system. Not everyone has access to that. Well, we all do have access to that actually, but a lot of people it's harder to crack. It's a harder nut to crack than some. I don't want you to feel ashamed of yourself anymore, Pisces. I don't want you to feel locked in your brain. I don't want you to feel that you don't have access to joy. You do. You do. You're not a bad person if it's difficult sometimes. You'll get back there. But, you know, all the doctors and stuff talking about neuroplasticity and mindfulness, you've got to listen to them. This stuff is that. This stuff is dropping back into this moment and recognizing that all of that anxiety and that conversation, that chatter, no one is physically yelling to us, telling us that we're worth nothing, that we're useless, that we're stupid. No one's doing that anymore. But when you get trapped in here, especially when it comes to your worth and what's in your back pocket, that's when it can start to jump out again. I'm really sensitive around the phrase lack mentality. We've talked about this before, and all of that sort of thing, because that sort of places blame on the individual, like probably because I do have a lack mentality. But what I'm getting at is that in order to understand why that might be a continual thought form, that might be a continual routine, a continual pattern that we think about, we've got to go back and maybe sort of recognize where that sort of started. What was the genesis of that? And can we get beyond that? And can we find that little one, find what they were interested in and what they loved to do and how they would relate and how they had a sense of self-worth? I got Justice next, which is Libra energy. So this is in opposition to Aries. But Libra is I got this card, I got a reading with my beautiful tarot mentor, Julia Inglis at Sacred Familiar. She's running a tarot workshop. Actually, I'm not sure if the enrollments are still open, but I'm starting that on the 23rd, the day that Pluto enters Aquarius, actually. Another round of learning. It's always important when you're engaged in this sort of stuff to continue to learn. But I got the Justice card and I couldn't figure out how or why or what's that sort of speaking to me. They hold the sword of truth in their hand. That's how justice is served in the tarot anyway. The sword of truth. The truth that I can find in this, Pisces, is that you've been told some stuff that just isn't true. And it's going to take a little while to recall when that was and to remember what life was before that happened. If you can scoop up that little version of yourself in your arms and you can give them a big cuddle and you can sit down and look at their sketchbooks, look at what they've been working on and marvel at it and say, that's brilliant, darling, you're doing so well. That's the truth. I see that there's some like longing to collaborate. You're sort of longing to open up a little bit more, to kind of share this perhaps or work on something with somebody else. And maybe you've been offered it too. Maybe there's someone in the environment, there's something that's coming forward. It's sort of, it's a humble offer at the moment, but it's truthful. There's some potential here. There's a seed of something, maybe a seed of collaboration. I'm not sure if someone has expressed that to you. Perhaps they will as time goes on. What am I talking about? Look at that, look at that literal image. 10 of Swords is the ending of a very difficult mental cycle. The swords represent our mind, our thoughts, our mentality. What is the repetition that's going on in there? It's over. The sun's coming up in the background. Who's this? It's you, babe. That's the little one. Beyond the pain, beyond the fear, beyond the worry, all the way back. It's going to take a little while to figure out when, but you'll get there. And you're going to see that little one. And you're going to create together. And you're going to be unstoppable. This new moon in Aries in your second house is going to reactivate. I feel really good about it, Pisces. A month from the new moon, there's going to be a solar eclipse in Aries. So who knows what's going to happen? It feels like things are rising. It feels like things are about to burst. So don't give up. Don't give up. I believe in you. I really believe in you. You're doing great things, and your worth is bountiful. So much more than what sits in your bank balance or in your back pocket. We're going to work on this together, and we're going to build you up and get you to a sense of autonomy, get you a space, get you feeling ready and able to continue the work that you're doing, continue creating, because it comes from here. And we can all feel it. We're all so grateful for it, Pisces. All right, that's your reading, babe. You're my last one. You can probably tell my voice is croaking out. Head to Uma Ruby if you're new here. You can look at my paintings. You can read my writing. You can get your birth chart read by me if you like, via the readings tab. Also, if you do have any change in your pocket that you'd like to put in the tip jar, head to buymeacoffee.com. They're always received with gratitude, but never expected. I'll be speaking to you in 2 weeks for that full moon in Libra, and we'll have a bit to talk about sort of intensity and connection and release. So we'll prepare ourselves for that, and we'll also prepare ourselves for the impending eclipses too. But right now, let's just focus in on Sissy, focus in on the road, focus in on your magical powers. Greater freedom of movement, babe. You've always done it since you were a kid. Think about your life. Think about the shit that you've done so far. It's been wild. What else is to come? It's up to you. All right. Thanks for staying with me, Pisces. I'll see you later. Bye.